You can't grow in isolation, and you can't multiply what you have not modeled. Today, we're asking a powerful question. Who are you following, and who's following you? We're unpacking John Maxwell's law of modeling through the lens of fivefold ministry, because every apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, and teacher must be shaped before they can shape others. And we're discussing it all right here, right now, and only on the Five Gifts Podcast.
You're listening to the Five Gifts Podcast, a weekly show designed to equip leaders in the Spirit-filled church. I'm Bruce Ritter, and along with my co-host Charles Russell, we offer insights for leading the local church in the fullest expression of Jesus. If you're interested in learning more about practical theology, the gifts of the Spirit, and spiritual disciplines, this is the show for you. Welcome to the Five Gifts Podcast.
Are you a Spirit-filled minister ready to take the next step in your ministry training? The Servant Leaders Cohort will help you earn your BA, MA, or DMin. We offer in-person instruction in a small group learning environment that is affordably priced. Instruction happens in monthly 2-day intensives in the Triad of North Carolina. Degrees are approved and conferred by Vision Christian Bible College and Seminary. You can earn your bachelor's in 2 years, a master's in 15 months, or a DMin in 18 to 24 months. For more information, go to fivegifts.org/SLC.
Hey, welcome to the Five Gifts Podcast. Glad that you're here with us today. As you are consuming this content, as you're watching the episode, Bruce and I are in sunny, hot Orlando, Florida. We're attending the Assemblies of God General Council meetings, and I'm sure we're having a great time. How can you not have fun in Orlando and having church business meetings? And so our calendars and schedules are full. My daughter is participating in the National Fine Arts competitions, doing several categories. Our family's having a great time. And I'm not going to admit to it, but I might be joyriding down the halls of the Orlando Convention Center in a motorized cart. So watch out. I tend not to use my blinkers. All that being said, Bruce, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm going to head over to the exhibit hall and grab some free pens and notepads and see if I can't score a couple of t-shirts.
That's right. Christmas gifts for all the five gifts.
Hey,
Five gift
every 2 years, General Council brings out the riches. I'm telling you.
You got to load up, man.
Well, but it is good to be with everyone today on the Five Gifts Podcast. We love being able to meet with you and share some what we hope is enriching content. I know that Charles and I like to cut up from time to time, but we're also very serious about seeing you grow as a leader, and we want to be resources for that as much as we can. So we appreciate you tuning in because what we have to share really doesn't matter if it doesn't connect with you. And so we're glad that you've taken time to be with us. And Charles, today we're talking about the law of modeling, which is another Maxwell principle. And I've enjoyed this series. We're able to filter a lot of his teaching through a fivefold ministry model. And of course, the law of modeling teaches that personal growth accelerates when we intentionally follow the example of others who embody the character, skill, and maturity that we desire. What a biblical principle that is. We have so many examples of that in the scriptures, whether it's Elijah and Elisha, Moses and Joshua, even I think what we see happening between fathers and sons in the Old Testament, very powerful examples of what modeling can look like, both good examples and poor examples. The truth is we learn best through relationships, not just information. We learn it by observing, imitating, and eventually becoming a model ourselves. I think we need to remember that true growth and leadership are multiplied when we both follow well and live lives worth following. So, Charles, if spiritual maturity isn't automatic, and it isn't, then how do we grow into the leaders God is calling us to be? What role does following godly examples play in our development as spirit-filled servant leaders?
Well, the truth is, you and I, none of us were ever meant to grow alone. So growth accelerates when you follow someone who models what you want to become. So if we're going to just be honest, be real today, too many of us in spiritual leadership ministry were trained to rely mostly on the anointing. While we value revelation, we often neglect formation. But formation doesn't happen in a vacuum. You can't become what you've never been. That's why modeling is so important. It's why it matters. Dallas Willard says this. He says, "We become what we gaze upon. We are shaped by our vision of the good life, and by those we imitate." So look, you can't become what you've never seen. That's why modeling matters. The question isn't just what are you learning, but who are you learning from? Who is a step ahead of you in maturity, in ministry, in mission, and are you close enough to learn from their life? So let's take a closer look at how this applies to fivefold leaders. What does modeling actually look like in the fivefold ministry? How does each gift grow by walking with someone who's gone before them in the Spirit? And so Bruce is going to help us. Bruce, I know you've got all the answers for us today, and so just lead us into the light of modeling through the fivefold ministry.
Well, thank you, Charles. As a matter of fact, I do have all the answers today, and I'm excited to share them with you.
That's right.
Hardly, but I think I think it's helpful to look at how this model plays out. The law of modeling is basically mentoring, it's discipling, it's coaching. So how does that play out in a fivefold ministry context? Well, let's first look at apostolic leaders. We think of apostolic leaders as people that build the systems. They're formational leaders. They lay the foundation. Even Paul said in 1 Corinthians 11, verse 1, he said, "Follow me as I follow Christ." So he wasn't just about establishing systems and planting churches. He modeled endurance. He showed grace. Man, if anyone exemplified sacrifice, that's Paul, to go through such a great cost to share Christ with others and to establish churches. But so much of what people could see in him was what he said, "I want you to follow me because everything you see me doing is because I'm following Christ." Apostolic leaders have to submit to someone who's been sent before them. So if you're seeing the lift of apostolic leadership in your gifting, then it's important that you learn from other apostolic leaders. It doesn't mean exclusively. I think we learn from anyone who is more mature, more seasoned, more Christ-like than we are. But certainly you want to learn from other apostolic leaders, and not just invent the next move of God. You're going to see that God is already working powerfully through other people, and you have much to learn from them. So we think of many examples of that, and one I think common in our day is where one emerging apostolic leader shadows a seasoned church planter, not just learning how to launch, but how to endure, how to last in that area of ministry. I can think of so many other examples, but that one really stands out. If we think of what that could look like in the local church, as a young, maybe an associate pastor, a youth pastor, by all means, look at your senior leader as someone that you can learn from, because it could be that the lift of apostolic leadership in your life is going to come as you grow and as you have a good leader to follow in your senior leader. Prophetic leaders, I think it's important prophetic leaders model integrity. They are so passionate about the truth, and that truth needs to be reflected in their life. If you caught our podcast last week, we talked a lot about character. And a genuine prophetic leader is someone that is adequately modeling character. So as a growing prophetic leader, you need mentors who embody purity, discernment, humility. You can learn that from, again, anyone that's gone some miles with Jesus, because their life is going to reflect those kinds of attributes. It's not just accuracy in our prophetic ministry, but it's also accountability, learning to learn and to live in submission, mutual submission, as Paul teaches us in Ephesians chapter 5. You can imagine a young prophetic voice learning to walk with a mature prophet, a mature prophetic voice who knows how to carry revelation without self-promotion and without manipulation. Really, the true test of a prophet is not only the truth of their word, but the fruit of their life. What about the pastoral leader? Well, a pastoral leader genuinely models presence and patience. If you think of the image of the shepherd in the field, think of the presence and the patience that comes with being there for the sheep, being a protector, being a nurturer, being a healer, being a constant presence. The idea that the sheep recognize the voice of their master, that's about presence. But a pastoral leader also has patience. They're not too quick to condemn. They realize that people are a work in progress. Well, as a pastoral leader, you need to find people that can model that for you. You need to find people that can model not just the ability to teach, but someone to show you how to walk slowly through the crowd, how to love people long term, how to avoid burnout. So, in using Jesus' analogy, find an elder leader, a model that you can yoke yourself to and learn from. And I think that's what Jesus is inviting us to do when we grow by looking at him. Well, we need to find those other leaders that we can yoke ourselves to and learn from their life, and that's going to take a lot of willingness to submit and to learn and be teachable. A good pastor can help you learn how to implement your own Sabbath boundaries, how to engage in emotionally healthy spiritual formation. So as a growing pastoral leader, find the person that can model presence and patience for you. And as a teaching leader, if you're seeing the gift of teaching emerge in your life, then find mentors who not only rightly divide the word, but they embody it in their relationships and they love disciples. I think it was a quote Charles shared last week from A.W. Tozer that truth spoken in love is truth. Anytime we're speaking truth from an unloving way, an inner life that's compromised and manipulative, then even though the message might be scriptural, it loses the impact of being truth, because we're teaching things that are not embodied with the character of love and patience and kindness and things that we need to back up ministry. So again, teachers need mentors who not only rightly divide the word, but also reflect the word in their own life, their practical life, their relationships, their ministry connections. So think of a teacher learning to disciple, not just to download information, not just to articulate and create curriculum, but to live the truth, to be authentic, and not just to lecture it. And then I think for the evangelistic leader, learning to model compassionate boldness. If you see these gifts emerging in your life and you're feeling, I have a passion to reach the lost, what a great anointing that God has released on your life, and what wonderful passion. But you're going to have to learn from models who are not just great at preaching, but people that are great at living the gospel, people that have a passion not just to reach the lost, but to show love, to be consistent, to be someone driven by mercy. A great illustration could be that passionate young evangelist learning how their mentor engages others in spiritual conversations, not just on the platform, but in the restaurant, at the coffee shop. Watch them how they interact with waiters or waitresses or baristas. Think of who they are when they're off stage, where they're full of love and not just hype. So I think these are getting us in the right direction. The question is are you imitating someone who looks like Jesus in your gifting, or are you just trying to invent it from scratch? So, Charles, talk to us about what holds many leaders back.
Well, I think the one to lead with is that one of the biggest mistakes leaders make would be putting themselves in isolation. Isolation is a growth killer. Uh, and so, again, one of the biggest mistakes we make as leaders is trying to grow alone, trying to do this on our own. You know, there's kind of two sides to this. Pride whispers, "Hey, I've got this. I can handle this." On the other hand of that, fear whispers, "Well, no one understands me, so I'm just going to have to do this on my own." But the truth is, the Spirit calls, and the Spirit says, according to Proverbs 13:20, walk with the wise and become wise. And so we can't not effectively and sustainably grow in isolation. We need to do this together. Find someone who's modeling, walk with the wise, and become wise. Secondly, you can't model the kingdom if you've never been mentored in the kingdom. And look, this is not weakness. It's biblical discipleship. Even Jesus said, "I only do what I see the Father doing." That's in John 5:19. The context of that here, the Pharisees are trying to get Jesus to bend and mold himself to their agenda and to their system. And, and Jesus says a few very complimentary things to these Pharisees, tongue in cheek. Hint, there's a little sarcasm there. But Jesus lays it out for them. And in John 5:19, he says, "Look, I'm only going to do what I see the Father doing." And the truth of the matter is, if the Son of God modeled his life after the Father, then why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we do the same? So I think some good coaching questions to consider here and to reflect on would be, number one, who's modeling the kind of leader that you want to become? Who's out there? Who are you connected to, or who do you want to be connected to? Who's modeling the kind of leader you want to become? Secondly, are you intentionally pursuing relationships with those further along the journey? What are you doing to intentionally pursue those relationships? Who are the people that are further along the journey, and how are you pursuing those relationships? Third, who are you modeling the kingdom for right now? And so it's not only a being receiving the modeling, but it's also now modeling for others that are coming behind us as well. Who are we modeling the kingdom for right now? And so it's critical that this is modeling both for the benefit of others and also receiving the lessons from modeling is done best in the context of relationships. And so with that in mind, how do you begin modeling and multiplying like Jesus did? Again, we're going to go back to the answer, man. Bruce, help us out, man. How do we begin to model and multiply the way that Jesus did?
Well, let me spit some more facts at you, Charles. You're too kind, and you're killing my ego today with all of it, pumping it up. You have some very important things that you've said. The goal of modeling is, in one sense, imitation. I think that's a principle from Scripture. Paul greets the Thessalonians, and he says, "You became imitators of us. You learned from us. You began to live and think and behave and have vision the way you saw in me and Timothy and Silas." But the goal of modeling is not simply imitation. It's about transformation. It's about multiplication. So you're not just following to grow personally. You're following to multiply. What you're doing is you learn from others is you're opening up your potential to impact people beyond you. Paul tells Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 2, he says, what you've heard from me, entrust it to who? To other faithful people who will teach others also. So we're talking about 4 generations of modeling and multiplication. We went from Paul to Timothy, Timothy to raising up other faithful people who can teach. And then that 4th generation are the impacted people of those that you've raised up to model and teach and perpetuate the life of the Spirit. Same thing happened in Thessalonica. What they learned from Paul and Silas and Timothy, not only were they seeing that, but Paul says, we've heard other people in other lands, other nations, other cities, and they're reporting to us what kind of people you are because they've heard the gospel, their lives have been changed. So modeling is about multiplication. It's about reaching beyond your own life. So modeling leads to spiritual sons and daughters instead of followers. I think that's a really important concept. Yeah. And one of the most important patterns I think you see in the New Testament when it comes to discipling and mentoring and helping shape future generations is this concept of spiritual parenting, that we're raising up spiritual sons and daughters. And so that takes not only the information side, but it takes letting people get close enough to us so that we can model that for them, so they can see it, so they can hear the impact of that in us. Charles, I have a dear mentor in my history who has been with the Lord ever since 1991, and he was a dear friend to me. I met him through Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and also later I started attending his church where he was on staff. His name was Jackie Brown. He was the first African American letterman at the University of South Carolina in football. He also played baseball. A phenomenal athlete, got drafted by the Washington Redskins, and later was released. But that was all part of his story, how the Lord was bringing him to faith. And I'll never forget. I'll cherish those moments. Still, I'm 57 years old, but I still think of those most impressionable years for me as I was coming back to the Lord. As a college student, and learning from Jackie Brown. I mean, going sitting with him. Not only he would teach our Sunday school from time to time, but I remember going with him on missions trip and being up close and being able to observe him. He invited that. He invited me to sit with him. He invited me to come alongside of him. He would affirm me. He would not only show me his life and allow me to see it, but he was paying attention to me too. And so there's that transaction of spiritual sonship. We will raise up spiritual sons and daughters, not just followers, not just copiers, not just imitators, but a real close relationship. And I think that's something we need to remember in the dynamic of modeling. It's going to demand a relational cost. You're going to have to get close enough to people to let them see you and where you see them. And sometimes relationships can be messy. Not everything that you see in someone else you're going to like. But there's that maturity that I think that's necessary in spiritual parenting. I think modeling can also lead to sustainable systems. And Charles, you do such a great job talking about systems. And I know in the past you've talked about how systems that are repeatable, they are so important to multiplying dynamics in ministry in the local church. Well, the same thing happens when it comes to raising up capable ministers. They're learning to grow in a system of spiritual growth. They're learning to adapt and apply things that they're learning as they see those modeled from you and I. And then modeling can also lead to legacy instead of burnout. One of the most life-giving things, if you haven't discovered this yet, one of the most life-giving things is allowing your life to raise up other leaders, to raise up other ministers, to continually open up your own life. Let it be a channel of God's blessing, God's transformation of other people. So make sure that you're really involved in modeling, both looking to people to help shape you, but also being that catalyst for other people to grow. I think that's obviously one component of modeling. Another one we need to think are some spirit-filled practices. It's important. Identify a mentor in your life who reflects Christ in your gift, and schedule a regular time with them. You know, this podcast is all about advocating for mentors and coaches. And so we encourage you, identify those people that you relate to. They don't have to be the most obvious person. They don't have to be the most gifted person, the most visible person. I've got a young man that I've met with for a few years now, and I still don't know why he wants to meet with me. He could be on to so many other gifted people, but you know, I do appreciate the fact that he's identified some things in me that he wants to see growing in him, and I think that's important. Identify the mentor who reflects Christ in your gift, and approach them. If they're a genuine mentor, believe me, they're going to be open to regular, systematic times of meeting. Another thing to consider is walk with them. Don't just talk with them. Observe their lifestyle, not just their sermons. You want to create space to build relationships so that you can see them, so that you can observe them. You know, one of the key things. It's a word that appears in I think 1 Thessalonians, as Paul was talking, is about his relationship. He talks about leaving the imprint of their influence on the Thessalonian believers. And the word imprint means to leave with impact. You can think of it almost as the bruise that's left by a punch. Not that we want to get violent in mentoring, but you know, the idea is that we're leaving our impact. There's a punch that comes from our life, and it leaves its residue in someone else. So you need to have that kind of relationship where you're letting their life shape you and inform you. And then, but you need to be the person that's inviting other people to watch your walk. You're not just learning from other people, but allowing yourself to step into the role of mentor. That's a very powerful step in ministry. So even as a young leader, you're not disqualified from being a mentor to others. And so look for those opportunities. It's not about being perfect, but it's about helping people grow in their own spiritual formation. So one final challenge to consider is this: who is shaping you? Who's shaping you, and who are you shaping? You want to stand as a leader in that crux and always be looking to people that you trust in your own formation, but also looking at your life as a catalyst for shaping others. Remember, multiplication doesn't begin on the platform. It begins in proximity. It brings in the placement of your life in relationship to other people. So keep that, and in humility, in the intentional pursuit of models worth imitating, always keep yourself open to new relationships where you can be a catalyst that helps other people get formed in Christ. So don't just be anointed, be apprenticed. Don't just lead, but be a person that's led. Charles, what are some calls to action you can give us today?
Well, I think this week's reflection would be this: who is one person that you need to pursue as a model in this season? Who is that individual? Who do you need to pursue that can model for you in this season of life, in this season of growth and leadership? Maybe take a moment and pray. Ask the Lord to maybe illuminate some of that for you. It may be just a natural conclusion that you come to yourself, but you might need to do a little searching, a little digging. Who's one person that you need to pursue as a model in this season? And then even further, even beyond that question, is okay. So what are the steps now that you need to begin to take to make a connection, make a relational connection with that person? Are you going to have to make a phone call? Are you going to have to set an appointment? What are the next steps? You've identified the person that you feel like could be a great model for you. All right. So what are you going to do? What are the steps you're going to do? What are the steps you're going to take uh, to secure that connection, so that you can have a model in this next season of life? And then to even drill down deeper, I would say, all right, when are you going to take those steps? Give yourself a due date, if you will. Um, when are you going to take the steps? We've identified who, we're identifying how I'm going to do this, but now here's an important question: when? What's the due date? When are you going to accomplish this? When are you going to take the steps to secure this relational connection, to have a model for the next season of life? So work through that progression of who, how, and then when are you going to accomplish that? Because we don't want this just to be an exercise of daydreaming. We want this to be an exercise of transformation. So try to answer that question with who, how, and when, and then I think that's going to put you on a great path to accomplishing and answering that question. Second takeaway: who is one person watching? Is watching you, rather. Who's one person that's watching you that you could begin to intentionally invest in? All right, so let's take the same progression. We're identifying who is it that you could begin to model for, and who could you begin to intentionally invest in? All right, now how are you going to do that? What are the steps? Do you need to make an invitation to them? Do you need to calendar some dates and time? I mean, what are the steps that need to take place? How are you going to begin to invest in them? Um, and then when? All right, when is the invitation going to be given? When are you going to start meeting with this person? So again, who's one person watching you that you could begin to intentionally invest in, and how are you going to do that? And then when are you going to do that? Look, you don't need to be famous to be fruitful. You just need to be faithful enough to follow and finish well. I think I think many of us are guilty of thinking, well, I have to have arrived at a greater platform and at a more influential level of status and influence. But the truth is, you don't have to be famous to be fruitful. You just got to be faithful enough to follow and finish well. So, who's gone before you? Who's at the next level that you're trying to get to? And then who's coming behind you? Begin to identify who they are. Begin to identify how you can engage in modeling and mentoring relationships. And then, all right, the third prong of that is, when are you going to secure those actions? When are you going to just secure those dates and times, so that you are being mentored and being modeled for, and now you're also mentoring and modeling for someone else. I think if you if we can all work on those takeaways, then I think we're putting action we're exercising action steps that help us for sure. The truth is, you were never meant to invent your calling alone. You're never meant to finish your calling in isolation. And so, find a community, build that community, and begin to together grow through this law of modeling that we've talked about and discussed today. Well, hey, thanks for joining us on the Five Gifts podcast. Please remember that fivefold leaders grow together in Christ, character, and calling. If this episode has stirred something in you, share it with your team, your pastor, your proteges. If you like this episode, hit the like button. If not, go ahead and hit the dislike button twice. Why do I have all these random thoughts just entering into my head? Don't hit the dislike button. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tag us when you share. It helps us to reach more leaders who are ready to build churches that look more like Jesus. Hey, if you're ready for coaching, we're ready to be a coach and a mentor for you. Whether you lead a church, a nonprofit, or a kingdom business, we offer customized coaching for individuals and for fivefold teams. So we have one-on-one coaching that will help to clarify your personal call and strengthen your systems. We offer team strategy sessions to align your leaders, your priorities, and your growth rhythms. You can schedule your free discovery call right now at charlesrusselltraining.com, charlesrussellministries.com, and coachingcardia.com. Remember, you're not just leading, you're being formed, and you're forming others. Thanks so much for being here with us today. Come back next week and continue to learn with us right here on the Five Gifts Podcast.
You've been listening to the Five Gifts Podcast. If you would like to take the next step as a spiritual leader, we invite you to visit either of our websites or contact us for leadership coaching. We can help you reach the next level in your own growth and leadership. We provide leadership, spiritual gift, and personality assessments that give you a better grasp of your leadership style. And we also create a customized growth plan that empowers you to reach your full kingdom potential. We can't wait to hear from you.